Hello friends, in my previous program I've shown you how to implement Decorator in core Python, and I stated that I will be doing the same in context to Django. This particular program makes use of Django, and where we will see something called Decorator. So I've created a separate file by the name called decorator.py. Let me open this, and here is the code. I also have got, by default we always get urls.py, so urls.py is going to give a call to the empty route, and that will give a call to the function that is called index. So let's get to the view.py as well, and here is the index that you can see, the function based view. Apart from these two resources, we also had got one template where the base.html deals with the CDN link, and we have the block content over here. And inside this block content we are going to embed the content of index.html. So let me open the index.html, and this is the page where we are creating our DOM element. Well, let's run the project. That will be more effective for us to understand, and the project is already okay. Let me stop the stuff, and let me zoom it a bit, and let's clear the code. Oh sorry, yeah, and let's run it again. Python manage.py run server, and my Django application is running. Very good. Let me minimize this. Let's come to the browser and type localhost :8000, localhost :8000. As I do that, the template comes in front of you. Well, currently what is happening? So when the user gives the call to the localhost :8000, the first thing that comes over here in the urls.py, this empty route gets invoked. And now what happens? The control goes to the respective function based view right over here. But wait, before we execute this particular function based view, we have something called Decorator right over here, and this is the topic, this is the agenda of this particular video. In my last core Python video, I have stated very clearly that the Decorator is going to do some task prior the actual work takes place. So if you look at this particular function based view, you can say that it is taking a couple of input from the user. As we can see in the template, we have got two DOM elements, so therefrom the input will be coming, and that input will be, then we will perform the summation, and we are going to return the result in the form of context to our index.html page. Very straightforward. We have done this particular thing. But the fact over here is that what if the user, instead of giving to integer, gives to string? Suppose in the first DOM I give my first name as Farooq, and in the second DOM I give my last name as Shah. Do you think the calculation will take place? Of course not. So we need to verify that the input which you have given can be converted to integer type. Then only we will be able to do the sum. Okay, so index.html is responsible to perform the sum. It is not responsible to verify whether the input given by the user is actually can be converted or typecast to integer. That verification is not the concern of index. I told in the core Python program that your chemistry teacher is supposed to teach a chemistry chapter, or physics teacher is supposed to teach a physics chapter. But before you do that, if the class is of online mode, you must check whether the microphone is working correctly or not, whether camera is perfectly fine, whether the student can log into the system or not. These verification need to be done at first, then you do take the class, because if there is a malfunctioning, then nothing can be done. Your class, taking the class will be of no use, and that's the reason why we are going for this decorator called valid_num. I've given a name. And look over here, this is the dot means the current working directory where my view.py is present. Right over there I have a file called Decorator, and this is going to give a call to a function called valid_num, and that's what we have written. In my core Python program I told you that whenever you are working with a decorator, always remember that the decorator function gets executed first, and it passes a function as an argument. So this entire function, this entire content of this particular function will pass an argument to this particular decorator function. So control will jump to this particular function. Let me split the screen so that we can see both the things simultaneously. We are right over here. So the control, remember the urls.py has given call to this particular function, so by default the control will come right over here. But after entering this particular function, it found that there is something called decorator, so it has to jump to the decorator, and here is my decorator. As I stated a few minutes ago, the decorator will pass a function as an argument. So for that reason, I have a variable over here called view_func who will receive this particular function. And in my core Python, I very clearly stated that this particular parameter would be of type object, and the reason why over here also I've mentioned object. So that means a core Python program of decorator, and this is very much at the similar line. I in fact stated that this particular function, when it gets executed, it will always return a reference of another function, and for that reason we have got an object as a return type. As you can see, it is giving a call to func_view, which is basically going to hold this index. So that means this particular function has got another function inside called wrapper, who is going to call a function, who is going to return a function. Even valid_num is going to return a wrapper, right? So now let's go through this particular valid_number, which is my decorator. So the moment when the control came right over here, it came across this particular annotation, the control jumps over here and it passes this particular index, which is a function, as an argument that gets stored right over here. Great. Now inside the validate_num we have a function called wrapper, but unfortunately nobody called wrapper, so this particular function will not get executed, like I have clearly stated in my core Python Django video. Hence this particular portion will be omitted right now, and we are going to return the wrapper. So we are returning this particular function, and that is actually getting stored inside this particular reference variable called index. Although this line is not there in the code, but it would be there in the memory. So this index is going to hold the wrapper information. Now you might be wondering that index was a function name. Well, that information will not get overwritten because we have already passed the index as a parameter, and the information about this particular function is already stored inside this particular parameter view_func. So there is nothing lost in the data. So the wrapper information which you are passing is getting stored inside the index, and next time when you are giving a call to index within bracket request, you are basically giving a call to the wrapper function. So the control will come from here right over here, because index is holding the information of the wrapper, and now the body of the wrapper is going to be executed. Well, we are passing over here an argument called request. For that reason we have a request argument over here. But apart from that, I have also passed over here a couple of more arguments, because in the real world scenario you will not just pass the request, you might also pass some extra parameter. And how do you receive that extra parameter? Because you don't know how many extra parameter you are going to pass. I mean extra argument you are going to pass. Is it 1, is it 2, or whether the data will be in the form of a key value pair or not, you don't know. So for that reason, in the professional way of writing decorator, it is always a good practice that you introduce *args as well as *kwargs. So if you are passing a value in the form of 10, 20, 30 right over here, then that will be stored inside args. And if you are passing in the form of key value pair, then that will be stored in context to kwargs. And since you have clicked the function, I mean the button, so the post get request get called. So if request.method equals to post, that will be valid. Well, just one extra information I want to show you, that do you know that what this particular data type is? Well, you will be very surprised to see that the data type of this is actually well, I will not say, you will see in the terminal itself, and two different data types will come in context to this one. This will be of one type, this will be of another type. Okay, so that will be printed right away. This is extra information I'm doing. Well, I'm passing the information in the form of DOM element. So this is the DOM element called num1, and this is DOM element called num2, that will be passed right over here. So we are going to extract the value that the user has given in the DOM element num1. Well, if you want to see over here, we have our text box that is called num1, we have a text box called num2, and we know that we have to pass it within the form tag and the method type post. These things all you know very well. CSRF token, we have to pass it. So this information will right now come over here. So what Django will do, it will pick up the value that user has given from num1 and will store inside this variable, and num2 will store inside this particular variable. Got it? And we don't know exactly what input user will be giving, and that's my prime concern. What if the user is giving Swaroop as the first input and my last name? Will this be performing the sum? Of course not. So that's what we are going to do over here. We are going to perform a exception block to check whether the input type is actually, we can convert it, we can typecast it. Is it possible? If it is possible, then it will be creating no problem and it will return back the response. It will return back the response. But what if it's not possible? Remember, here you are going to give call to the return view. Who is the view underscore function is holding the information of this index. So control will come directly over here and it will execute the rest of the code. But what if my input is not valid? In that case, what will happen is over here is that we are going to perform a value error checking, and in that case this particular error message will be forwarded to my template. So inside my index.html we have a DOM element called error, where this particular message will be shown. So this error message will be shown in a context format. So we have, if you come to my template right over here, you will find there is a DOM element error, where that error message will be shown right over here, that error message that is coming. So this is my key, this is a value, so this particular value will be shown right over here. In case if there is any issue, if there is any wrong data type, like in this case what I have given a wrong data type given, so in that case I am going to see this particular message, please enter a valid integer only, that will be shown right over here in this particular DOM element. But this is going to happen in case if it is invalid, right? And after that nothing is going to happen. So this entire code stuff will not work because it will end right over there. But what if my input is valid? Okay, before let's run the code first with the invalid input and let's see how exactly this particular thing happens, whereby this operation will not get executed in that case, because we are returning, we are performing an except block. So let's come over here and let me click on the submit button, and as I do that, as expected, please enter a valid integer only, that message came right from here, and that actually got displayed inside this particular DOM element, stating that it did not execute this particular portion, because you can see it is not calling this function, rather it is calling the render function. Control goes to the template called index.html. over there you are displaying this error message, hence this particular segment never got the chance to call. This is what I have been saying continuously, that the decorator function is going to perform some additional stuff before the actual operation takes place. So if your chemistry teacher is supposed to teach you a particular chapter in chemistry, but before that the teacher must check if every integrity of the system through which he or she will be taking the class is working perfectly fine or not, in the form of a microphone, in the form of a speaker, in the form of a camera, in the form of a smartphone, in the form, smart board, or even the student can log into the system. All those checking has to be done first. If everything is perfectly fine, then only she or he will be taking the class. Otherwise there is no point of taking the class. You give the error message and you end the code right over there, because there is no need to continue it. There is some issue, let's resolve the issue first, right? So that's the reason why the value error is directly sending the data in the form of render, and the output comes in the form of error message, which is very clearly been stated. So now let's rerun the code once again, and this time what happens, I will not give any wrong input, rather I'm going for input like 10 and 20. So when the user will click the button, again it gives a call to the decorator. That input will come right over here. It is passing this particular function as an argument that will get stored over here. Sorry, it will get stored over here, and then we are getting inside this, and we did not call the wrapper. The wrapper will not get called. The wrapper will be returned. That wrapper will get stored inside this index. Remember, this line is not visible in the code, it will be there happening internally. And then we are going to give a call to index, and this means we are giving a call to the wrapper, and we are passing the data that the user will be sending from here inside this request argument, and that request argument will get stored inside this particular request. Although star args, kw args, I did not use it, but we will be able to see the data type of these two arguments as well. And since the user will be clicking on the submit button, so that means the post request will get called, and this particular post is true, and we will be taking the data from the DOM element and store inside this variable, these two variables, and we will go for typecasting. If this particular typecasting is possible, then what will happen, except block will not get fired, rather we are going to return view underscore function and will pass the following argument. So view underscore function means I'm talking about this view underscore function, and this view underscore function is holding this particular index. So the control, that means this view underscore function is holding this particular index, so control will directly jump over here, and now the chemistry teacher or the physics teacher will take the class, because everything has been perfectly fine. So we have declared one variable over here called result. Again we'll pick up the data from the front end, we'll typecast it. We picked up the data from front end, we'll typecast it, and now we did the summation, because this time summation will work perfectly fine. And now what we are doing is that we are giving a call to the render template, and again this time we are passing the data to the index.html, and we are also passing a context, and here the result has been passed inside this particular key result. So for this also we will be having one DOM element inside index.html, and this is the DOM element that will be responsible for showing the result that is coming right from here. So it will show sum equal to whatever result that has happened, that will come over here. So that means we have got separate DOM element, one for showing the actual result when the input type is valid, and the other one is going to show the error when the input type is invalid. I mean, that is not possible for typecasting, as we saw in the first occasion when we gave Swarup and Shaha. But in this time it will not create any problem, that the result will come right inside this DOM element. So let's go and run the code now. Okay, as I click on the button, this time you see sum equals to 30. That means this particular div element is working perfectly fine. That means this time the exception did not take place, the function was returned, the control came over here, is successfully executed, and the result has been forwarded back to the template. And that's how Decorator is being used. Remember one thing, in real life application you have to use Decorator, because before you perform any big task you have to do some checking that whether those things are all fine, and then you will allow the function to perform its actual task. And that's how Decorator comes in picture. We often see Decorator in context to user login, and there where we will be seeing this kind of functions. But for that reason, this custom Decorator which I have done, which I have made you understand, if you go through this video again and again, the concept of Decorator will be crystal clear. I hope this particular program made you understand that how exactly a decorator function works in Django. Okay, with that I come to an end of this particular video. Take care. Bye bye.